Hey guys, welcome to Now That's Debatable. This is your host, Fantastic Facade. I am joined with my trusty co-host, Triple A the Humanist, who is back from a little bit of a time away, but he is back and we are back, and so is Bryce. Bryce is back. Welcome back, Bryce. We've had Bryce on before. Bye, Bryce. See ya. It's good to have you. Uh,
What happened?
he disconnected.
He's
Joining
back.
again.
I hit a button on accident. I meant to unmute. Sorry.
No
All good.
worries. Bryce is back, and welcome back. Everybody's back. And today we're going to be talking about atheist ideology. This is something that AAA had talked about and wanted to discuss with Bryce. And so I'm probably going to listen in. I'll chime in, of course, as I do, but AAA kind of wanted to spear tip this one, so have at it. Phantom, welcome back. Good to see you. Thanks for always tuning in and saying hello in chat. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So, just to start off, like I pay attention to some of the messages you post in one of the groups that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
and you seem to think that atheism is an ideology or has an ideology. Could you explain just what you think that is?
Yeah, so I think there's a modern trend in atheism where back in the day atheists used to have this very muscular position where it was like not a it wasn't just, oh, I don't believe personally that God exists. It was much more like, I'm going to make philosophical arguments for the fact that God doesn't exist or couldn't exist or it would be illogical, stuff like that. And now there's kind of been this little bit more conservative disposition epistemically for the atheist, where they are, oh, I don't believe in God. I don't make any claims. I have no obligation to demonstrate anything. And then another one is that there is nothing entails from atheism. And I think that that's a bit not dishonest is strong. That sounds loaded, but I think that there are natural consequences from atheism, and that if you're going to say, well, there's just no byproduct of the fact that I don't believe in God, well, I would push back against that and say that yes, there is. And I think that would be, now to say, is it an ideology the same way that a lot more systemic ideologies are? No, it's not as systematic, but
Mm-hmm.
there is a certain worldview that the atheist is going to have, and it's going to involve more than just the singular proposition that God does not exist. I guess is kind of the entry to that I would provide.
Sure. Okay. So, I the when we talk about, like, I guess the worldviews that atheists would have, as long as that worldview doesn't contain a God, then it kind of meets the standard. That's why I think it was Christopher Hitchens. He described uh trying to unify atheists. He described it as herding cats,
Yeah.
because someone being an atheist tells you really nothing else about them. So if someone tells you're an atheist, trying to make inferences about their worldview without asking them anything else, you're really just shooting in the dark. It'll be like trying to guess what your favorite meal is based off the only fact about you is that you don't like apples.
Yeah.
Well, that
Yeah, there's a lot of
right,
non-apples.
right. So that's not going to tell me a whole lot. Now, when you said that the atheists claim that they're not making any claims, or they don't have any burden to prove. So I guess it depends on the context of the conversation. So the modern atheist that you had described, that kind of fits my position.
Mhm.
So I don't assert that there is no God, because this God, especially the way a lot of theists believe him to be omnipotent, he definitely has the power to evade any sort of detection by me.
Mhm.
So a God like that, there's no way I could rule out.
Mhm.
you know. So, but there are certain gods that I could rule out. For instance, I know you're Catholic, and in
Mhm.
Protestantism, we have this belief about Jesus. We believe in something called the hypostatic union,
Mhm.
where Jesus is
Full
a
of
hunter.
God and man.
Yes, and so that God, do you believe in that God?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, so with that God, I can say does not exist. We can rule him out because that is a contradiction. To be 100% man and 100% God is problematic because man is defined as a type of non-God. God is defined as a type of non-man. So
Mhm.
you're 100% man and 100% God. You're saying you're 100% God and 100% non-God. That violates that.
Yeah, it feels
Results
like a
in
logical contradiction. Yeah.
yes. So
Or like the idea of the Trinity, three persons, one being. That could feel like a
yeah,
contradiction.
yeah, that falls into problems as well. So that's what I so like there is so I can rule out certain gods just by logic, right? But I see no reason why there couldn't be a very powerful God somewhere out in the cosmos with non-contradictory properties, just
Mhm.
hiding.
Yeah.
So there's no way I could rule that one out.
Mhm.
So when it comes to atheism, we really have to discuss which God we're talking about first.
Mhm.
Because if you're talking about somebody like Thor, like as far as I don't know a whole lot about Thor, but I don't believe he has any properties that contradict each other.
Mhm.
Jesus does, but so I could rule out Jesus, but I couldn't rule out Thor. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, and
that's
I
why I
would
would
agree
say
with that. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from on that. So I think with that, this is why I really like to emphasize the fact that the word God is a title. And so like we would say, Thor he's given the title the god of thunder, Ares was the god of war, Kronos was the god of time, Janus was the god of portals, stuff like that. And
mm-hmm,
so the word God is a title, and so if you give it like the God of X, well, that's a qualified use of the title.
mm-hmm,
So Ares was supposedly the supreme being of war, so he was given that title, the God of War. And so when we would say, God without qualification, then we're not saying supreme being of time or supreme being of whatever. We're just saying supreme being totally, like unqualified, most supreme being.
mm-hmm.
And so the question could then just be, is that title held? And the answer, I would say, must be yes. Now, some people will view this as a little bit of a cheat because they'll say, well, you're just giving the title to something that doesn't really deserve it. Because let's say, for the sake of argument, let's say that we could somehow one day arrive at a knowledge that the true absolute foundation of reality was a quantum field, and
Mm-hmm.
that is what generates everything that happens. It's the genesis of all effects. It's the font from which everything happens is this quantum field, and that is truly the most fundamental supreme being that there is. Then I would say, okay, well then that would be God. And so then people say, well, wait a second, well, why does the quantum field deserve the title? And that is it's more about a personal preference than it is about anything else, because
That's
I
why I
would
was
say,
saying you have to define him because if
mhm.
you define God as a stick of deodorant,
Well, if
well,
that stick
then
of
now I'm no
deodorant was the
longer an
cause
atheist.
of
I believe this
everything,
exists.
if that stick of deodorant was the cause of everything I had, it's like, so I have an existence that I didn't
Mm-hmm,
cause. There's beauty in my life that I didn't cause. There's truth and there's goodness and there's all of these things that are just a wash that I receive. My cup truly doth floweth over, and I
mm-hmm.
didn't earn any of it, and I didn't deserve any of it, and it was this gift that was just rained upon me, and I am overwhelmed with gratitude for that. I didn't exist, now I do. I didn't have anything, now I have things, And so the
what
ultimate
burden of
cause of
proof?
that is going to be worthy of my gratitude.
Before we get down that before you go down that, before you go down that rabbit hole, AAA, I want to address a few things. Hello to people in chat. I wanted to address two quick questions. If you both don't mind answering them, just because I'm playing moderator and answering chat at the same time. Jesse, hi, hey buddy, he's a good friend of mine. He said, "Isn't it always the case that some people are making philosophical arguments and some aren't, especially with the rise of secularism? What about modern philosophers?" So a little before we started down the rabbit hole, I wanted to get to these quicker because we just tend to move on sometimes. Would you say, both of you say that that's the case, that it's typically the case that some people are just always making philosophical arguments, some people just don't?
Yeah, well, some people don't make very explicit arguments. That's true. But I would say everybody's making implicit arguments all the time. And
would you
like
say
Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living.
Is an argument or a philosophical argument?
It's probably not. It's probably not structured very philosophically. Like, it's maybe more intuitional for a lot of people.
I'd say at bare minimum it's the claim. And I think that comment was posted during the time when we were talking about like burden of proofs.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, and maybe this will help. And I think whoever is making the claim or the argument has the burden of proof. So if an atheist is just saying, "I don't believe," then that's it. Right, he's not necessarily making a claim other than the claim about his own mental state.
So I have a super quick thought about that.
Okay.
So the main reason we have burdens of proof is in a court of law when a third party is being impacted based on the dispute at hand. So, for example, the government wants to throw somebody in jail. That's an exercise of pretty big power, and the impact is experienced not by the government, but by the person that they're throwing in jail. And so we're going to say, hey, because you want to impact person 3, we're going to have a burden of proof placed upon you. Or another example would be if you're out hunting, you have an obligation to be able to sex the animal that you're about to shoot, because if we just let people go out shooting willy-nilly at everything that rustles in the bushes, they could easily hurt, a third person who's just out in the woods and they get shot. And so to protect them, we say, hey, you have to be able to know what the sex of that animal was, and then we put a burden of proof on them. It's not quite the same scenario with the theist, because the person who's going to receive the consequences of the actions of their life is that individual person. So it's more akin to if your friend said, hey, I think you should eat a high protein diet, or I think you should buy this stock or whatever. If you choose to take that advice or leave that advice, the consequence of the action falls on you. And so really you're the one who's obligated. So I would say
I disagree.
That when you die and go to heaven, if you get to the pearly gates, I wouldn't want to make my defense be, well, I wasn't that interested in the truth, but the guy didn't really persuade me. You'd want to say, hey, I studied this out, I did my homework, and when you stand before your maker, you'd want to say, hey, look, I didn't believe, but I really tried to look at it. So that's how I want it to be.
Sure, but okay, but it sounds like you said it from the beginning that the main reason we have burden of proofs is because of the gravitas of the consequences in
of
law.
The third party. Yeah, that someone that's not making the decision.
I disagree. That's not really why. There are epistemic consequences for not placing the burden of proof on the one making the claim. So because we had a guy on 3 weeks ago, and he made some claim. I forget what it was. It was something really silly, and I or Facade asked him, "What's your evidence for that?" And he said, "Well, you can't disprove it." So if we go that route, then you're going to have to accept every claim until it's disproven, even contradictions.
So
So
I would say
you run into a huge epistemic problem here. That's why we put the burden of proof on the one making the claim.
so the way I would
It's not
look
about
at
the
it
court of
is,
law.
so look at my friends. So let's say my friend says, "Hey, dude, you should eat this fad diet," or whatever it is, whatever claim he makes. He doesn't have an obligation to prove that to me. Now, let's say he wants to be
Sure. Okay.
and he wants to be charismatic and persuasive. Then the natural requirement is that you're going to have to put something behind that argument, some logos, some pathos, some ethos to persuade me. And so,
Sure.
that's not
Well,
to say that you shouldn't be persuasive, but at the same time, we also don't want to say, well, I have no obligation for the outcome of my life. Like,
no, that's not what we're saying. No, that's not what I'm saying. So, like, what I'm saying is, like, if someone makes a claim and they do not back it,
then you could dismiss it very easily.
Exactly. You just automatically dismiss, like what they call it, Hitchens razor.
Yes, but
right?
but let's look at this theory. So let's look at you're driving down the road and there's a bridge and there's a crazy old homeless guy and he says that bridge is gonna collapse if you drive on it, and he offers no justification for it, and he seems kind of like a crazy homeless guy. And I don't know, if I came up to that bridge, I'd maybe take a quick look at it. I would test argument, but I would test it as well.
Okay, I would test it as well, but I mean that doesn't change the way logic works. Like
when we make claims, we should back them up. I agree with you, but I just don't. I don't view it as like this burden of proof, obligation, debt thing, because ultimately, my conversion from atheism to theism was one out of me reading personally a lot. It wasn't really arguments that other people were making. It was very much a.
Do you think so? That's very enlightening.
Here real quick.
So you said your conversion out of atheism to Christianity was a result of you disregarding the burden of proof.
Well, I kind of took it on
myself.
Isn't that
interesting?
To investigate.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Okay.
I'll say there's a bigger problem here that it seems to like maybe it's just so obvious that we're overlooking it. By ignoring the burden of proof, you've now dissuaded people from believing you in the future. So if the crazy guy says that you're going to drive across a bridge and if you do it's going to collapse, and then you drive across the bridge and it doesn't collapse, the next time the crazy guy screams something at you, you're going to be more dismissive of claims that he makes in the future.
That's true.
Therefore, you're poisoning your own well, if you will. And by doing so, if you're going to tell me things that are very, very nominal, that have little impact on my life, that are wrong, and then you're going to tell me there are things like that could impact not only my entire future, but all of eternity. Do you think I'm going to believe you anymore? Like that doesn't make any sense.
But all I'm trying to say is that, so let's say like a doctor talks to a patient and he says, hey, look, if you don't stop eating sugar, your insulin's going to keep going up. You're going to have diabetes. Your arteries are going to harden. You'll have necropsis. Your toes will fall off. And the patient feels like he just says, I'm not convinced. I felt like you didn't prove anything to me, and I'm just not. I feel zero. It's his feet who are going to fall off. So whenever we're putting the burden of proof, it's good. And when we make claims, we should be backing them up. That's just a nice thing to do. But we should never forget who's the person who's going to be responsible for our own lives, which is ourselves.
Sure.
I think we're agreeing.
We're still going to accept that.
Before we spawn off into another one, hi, Kentucky Atheist. He had a couple comments, so I wanted to address those real quick. It says, when you talk about the Christian God, this was before when you were holding up the stick of deodorant, defining God. When you talk about the Christian God, the Bible defines him in contradictory ways, which is something that Churbolet addressed, which is why he said he could dismiss the Christian God specifically, especially if you believe in things like Trinitarianism, the hypostatic union, that kind of thing, because you're making contradictory statements. So I think we addressed that. And then the second thing the Kentucky Atheist put up said, so your existence can be explained by natural means. That's the most likely cause. So there's no need to insert a hypothesis of a God. While science can't prove some form of abiogenesis, it does seem likely. And this is where we come back to things like Occam's razor, where we just say these are things that are observable. We have noticed that these things can happen. However, we don't see good evidence of some supernatural creationist deity that has just plucked the universe into existence. So why take the extra steps?
So the first thing I would say is, so let's say if I ever became convinced of naturalism, let's say I truly was believed that the ultimate natural force was the cause of everything good that's happened to me, then I would say, yeah, then nature is supreme being. Nature is God, and the pagans are right, and we should worship nature, and we should be grateful to her, and so much the better. Now, the reason I don't believe nature is supreme is because nature can't exist unless it's true it exists, and then we get to truth, and truth transcends nature.
You're
And
just,
then I
you're
know
just
you guys
saying the
love
same
that. I
thing.
know, so I'm not gonna go
Okay.
super into that unless you guys want to. But there's a reason that I'm not a naturalist. I don't believe nature is supreme. But let's say, for the sake of argument, if it was ever shown to be, or I was convinced it was, then all that would mean is not that atheism is true, but that I should worship nature, and that nature is the source of everything good that's happened to me, which I would forever be grateful for. So
Now, I
that's
know
fine.
this has been like a long while since, but there is one more thing I wanted to bring up, and it's when you start
Yeah.
going down these kind of tangential, you know,
I'm not trying to be
like,
tangential. Go on.
but it's true, you are tangential. But the
Like,
problem isn't that you're
A
tangential.
can't be unless it's true that A is.
Yeah,
So that-
it's not.
yeah,
It's not,
you're
my
just saying the
problem
same thing
isn't.
twice. But
It's not even just that. The problem is you're now correlating and corresponding parts of speech that don't actually add up. So earlier, when he pointed out that if I held up this, deodorant, and I said, this is God, and I say, okay, well, yeah, I mean, like, if that's how you're defining God, I can see the deodorant. I know deodorant exists. I've had experience with deodorant. I've seen it on the shelves. I've used deodorant. Like, I know these things exist, and at least my experience of reality, I don't have any problem believing deodorant exists. So if that's how you're defining God, what you did was something a little unique, and it's something that I've called you out on before, is because you say you use parts of speech the same way, but then you said something really interesting. You said if some quantum field turned out to be the origin of, all that there is, right? You would say then that would be the supreme being.
Yeah.
Being in that instance is a noun, not a verb. So you're not saying like deodorant exists. This is a state.
Yes.
You're conflating two parts of speech here.
So when I say being, I know what you're saying. So being, B-E-I-N-G, could be a verb, like I am being happy today. Like I'm using that as a verb. Or you could say a whale is a beautiful being. Like then we're saying being is a noun. And I understand that the word being, when used as a noun, most people think of like a creature or an organism, or at the very least, a physical entity. I use it in a much more expansive sense. Being for me is anything that is actualized at all. So like a sunset is being, it's a being, like it's a sunset, or gravity or justice, beauty, truth. So these things, a lot of things that people think, well, those are just abstract concepts. I would still consider them being if they have actuality. Like if anything with actuality is being.
The problem is,
so I
like,
use it
for
very
instance,
expansively.
the problem is you can't then give it its own attributable proponents because you're not using it in the same part of speech. So for instance, like you couldn't give a pronoun to a verb.
Yeah, I'm not using it as a verb. So like if I say the
but
quantum
I'm not
field
saying you
is
are,
supreme
right?
being,
I'm saying in your
then it's a
situation,
noun.
you're using it as a noun.
Yeah.
But you're defining it as a verb.
Mm-hmm. No, the act the
you're saying
the
you're saying
definition
anything
of
that
noun
exists
being
is a
anything
being.
actualized, anything with actuality.
Okay, and then what you mean by actuality, you just means existing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Existence. Yeah.
What type of what burden of proof do you think atheists have?
So what burden of proof do they have to theists? No, I don't think atheists have any obligation to prove things to
Well,
theists.
okay, sure.
But they just have a burden of proof to themselves. So they have to then say, I am going to be responsible for how my life is. So I'm going to investigate my life to come to the best possible answer. So
I mean, I would think
the
anybody
burden
would
is
have
to
that kind of
yourself.
burden of proof, right? I mean, anybody would have. So, well, that's not a burden of proof, but that's just, I guess, that's a burden. You're going to be responsible for yourself.
Yeah, it's the
But
burden of truth.
oh yeah, but I mean, that's not something that atheists.
Yeah,
would
I get what you mean.
have
So yeah,
any-
I don't think atheists have I don't think atheists have a burden of proof to theists in a dialogue. Now, if they want to be friends with theists and they say, I want you to understand me better and I want to build a relationship with you and we're going to share with each other, then naturally there's going to be a dance that takes place. But I don't think it's a burden of proof that atheists have.
So let's say, okay, look, for the sake of rationality,
Mhm.
I say I don't believe in a God.
Yeah.
What burden of proof would I have?
So you have I don't believe in God. At that point, you know, if you wanted to convince me that you really believed that, you would have to persuade me that one, you don't subconsciously believe in a God, or you aren't like just saying you don't. Because
So
there's some people who believe that atheists like secretly know there's a God, but they're just kind of being stubborn. I'm
yeah,
not
Those are called
of that
precepts.
persuasion all the time. Sometimes I
Right.
wake up and I think, I
So-
don't know, maybe it's all a farce.
you think, like, you think someone who consciously do not believe in a God could subconsciously believe in it?
Yeah, I mean, you could subconsciously know something that you consciously tell yourself isn't so. Yeah, I think that could happen.
Okay, huh? All right,
I
that's
mean,
interesting.
I mean, you know, if you said, well, if subconscious belief of God doesn't really count, then conscious atheism is all that matters, and that's fine. But you know, I think when I was an atheist, I look back and the fact that I was a bad atheist in the sense that
Mhm.
mostly my arguments were never very philosophically rigorous, and really, it was just I kind of had dismissed all religion because I grew up in a bit of an offshoot of religions. So I grew up in Mormonism, which is a bit of a fringe. You know, I mean, not super fringe. There's 16 million Mormons in the world,
Yeah.
but it is kind of a esoteric sect. You know,
And then when
especially
you
out
came to
there.
Christianity, you rejected the burden of proof,
Yeah,
and you became
So,
convinced.
so I
To
was
me,
like,
that is
no,
very.
cut it off. But then when I started to openly, honestly consider the possibility of what supreme being existing would be like and what that would mean,
Mhm.
I realized that most of my atheism was pretty poorly motivated, and most of my motivations were just
So
lascivious.
you would say, you're saying that a God would have to exist by the virtue of something having to be supreme.
Yes, the
Of
title
any-
God has to be held. Yes.
How about this? So, like in a set of rock, paper, and scissors,
Mhm.
What's the superlative?
So the supreme move is any of them. So if you said, what's the best move, assuming true randomness, you know, not assuming that people statistically.
Yeah, well,
pick
I guess
more than
whatever the
other.
supreme is.
True randomness, then each move is the best move. So it's not a very exciting game, which is why it's mostly random.
so it's possible that like we're all gods. I guess all of existence is gods.
So the reason that wouldn't be a possibility is, and you're not going to like the answer, but unfortunately, so is that everything that is existing is contingent on truth to exist. And I know that you think that that's not a predicate of anything,
Well,
but
my
I
thing
find that it is. And so I would say that truth is supreme, because without truth, I wouldn't exist, but my existence isn't necessary for truth to exist.
To me, like I just think it's a tautology, because when you say that it is like if I say Joe Biden is president, and then I say it is true that Joe Biden is president, I just said the same thing twice.
Yeah.
And I could say it again even longer.
Yeah.
It would be a true statement.
I know when I say things don't exist unless it's true they exist, that's very tautological. But if I rephrase it slightly, it doesn't feel that way so much. If I say things can't exist without truth, now I'm only saying one thing. And I feel like that is what makes it feel, or at least know, that like that existence isn't floating in the air. It's
I don't
literally
think
grounded.
well, I don't think truth is a thing that's like that necessarily has its own, I guess,
Existence.
ontology. Yeah, I think truth is just a description of reality.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I wouldn't say truth is a thing. This is just what
Yes,
reality is.
And so I would say that I'm making, in my mind, a very distinct or a very strong distinction. I believe that my thoughts about truth, my subjective thoughts, those are my concepts about truth, my ideas, all of that. Those are thoughts about truth. But what those thoughts are about do have actual ontological reality, because there is no truth can never be true, because then the truth that there is no truth would be true. So truth necessarily exists. And I don't feel like that is
that holds up, because truth is a description of reality. Like if you were to say it can't be a reality that there's no reality, that would then be the reality. That's why it adds up. That doesn't mean that truth has its ontology. It's because truth is a description of reality, and reality has to exist.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean truth.
Description could go away, but the underlying reality that the description was about would maintain.
Yes, that is my point.
That's the reality itself, not the descriptor of truth you're using for it.
Yeah, but the description is pointing to the underlying reality. Now, if you say
you don't need the description,
but
reality exists out of necessity.
Just by admitting that, you admit that truth itself and that description is contingent upon the reality itself.
See, when I say truth, I'm not meaning the description itself. I'm meaning the thing the description's about. But
it doesn't matter.
I don't like
both of those things are contingent upon reality.
Then that's fine. I'm happy to say reality, because there's all of these words that when you get to the bottom, like bedrock level of existence, it's like getting to the molten core of the earth, and it's so hot that these words, they merge into one another. So like actuality is existence, is being, is truth, and then the transcendental is what it is.
When you say that something, when you talk about truth, you're just talking about reality. It doesn't seem like you're doing that, because you're saying something can't exist unless it's true that it exists. So you're making existence contingent on some property of a proposition.
Yeah.
That describes.
Yeah, because I would say that there are contingent beings and necessary being, and the contingents are incidents of the transcendental, whereas the transcendental.
Hold on. You're gonna lose me. You're gonna lose me.
I know.
All right. So
I'm happy to walk through what my thoughts on it are.
Also, before we even go down that rabbit hole, because it's gonna happen.
No worries, whatever.
Let's try to sweep up a few comments while we can. So it says. Kentucky Atheist says. Before you were describing God as a potential natural subset of things, like for instance the quantum fields, and you would say that is the supreme being. Kentucky Atheist says, if those natural things may be God, then it's just missing words. It seems like you argue for an unidentifiable...
Misusing words.
Sorry, my apologies. Mm-hmm. It's just misusing words. It seems like you argue for an unidentifiable, powerless deity. If God can be all of those things, then God can be none of those things. And I think
it sounds like I wouldn't call God a bar of deodorant.
Right, and we had this discussion before, and I want to remind you, we had this discussion about by not defining supremacy, then you can manipulate the definition of God to be anything you want. Because if I want...
You really can't.
I can, because if the definition of God is the version of human that is most like me, then I meet the criteria of God.
So I feel like I'm very consistent. When I say God is a title, the criteria to hold that title is to be supreme.
Right.
Yeah,
and I'm saying in order to be supreme, you need to be the most like me. And therefore, since I am me, I meet the criteria of the thing that is most like
You
me.
could give yourself
Therefore,
the
I hold the
title
supreme
God in
being.
a hyper. You could give yourself the title God in a hyper qualified sense. So, for example, if you you're fantastic facade. So nobody is more you than you. So
Right.
you are the God of
That is true.
yourself. But that's a very small, tiny title of
Can
God.
you give me an example of something that is a God above me?
Truth, because you wouldn't exist unless it was true you exist.
But again, you
just defining
said
reality.
that you were just saying true. You're just saying reality here, right?
Yeah. So
when you say reality, you're just
above
talking about him. Truth isn't some transcendent
So
thing.
yeah.
You're just saying he exists.
When you say so when you say the word reality, I get the impression that you mean, and this is how most people use the term reality. So when most people use the word nature, they mean like a collection, like a vessel, and they put everything that's natural in it, and that collection is nature. And then I think we do the same thing with reality. So reality is a vessel, and everything that's real we pour into it, and that is reality. Reality is things that are real. So I'm trying to, and it's difficult for me to communicate it sometimes. I wish I did a better job, but you are an incident of reality. Like, you have realness, but you are not realness itself. Yeah. You have the truth of existing, but you are not truth itself.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm part of reality, but I'm not reality itself.
Being, but you are not being itself. So existing, being real, those are accidents that you have, but they aren't your essence. So I'm not saying an accident of existence. I'm saying the essence of existence, and that would be more supreme than you. That's why it would hold the title God and you would not, because the essence of existence is the source of all accidents of existence, which is like what we are. So, and I know that, and I probably don't use the language as well as I could, but I could always try to do better.
So, but no, when you talk about God, when you talk about God, you think he's a conscious being, right?
So, not the way that we're conscious. So we
aren't you
like?
Okay, you're Catholic, right?
Yes, I am Catholic.
Okay, so
I believe in classical theism. So like Thomas Aquinas, Middle Ages.
Sure. Okay, so the God that they believed in was somebody who had a mind, was conscious, who did things, loved and hated stuff.
Yeah. So when we look at the Bible, and I'm not an expert at exegesis, but whenever we speak about God, we always are speaking only analogically. So it's only by way of analogy. And so everything we say about God has a finite amount of truth value, but God is infinite. So it'll always be infinitely inaccurate when we describe him. So like if we say God breathed into Adam the breath of life, it's not to say that God has physical lungs. It's not to say that he has nostrils and he like moves air around through a body. It's always by way of analogy. And so
would you say?
So when I say God, if I were to say God is conscious,
you're only
not like we're conscious. He's consciousness itself.
When you say God, quick note, William Graves, I'm not understanding anything that you're saying. Try to make type out a longer comment, because you lost me, bro. Back to you, Bryce. So when you say God, are you just talking about reality?
Yeah. So in Latin we use the term. So no. But listen. Give me 2 seconds. So we use the term in Latin. We say ipsum esse. So we say the essence of existence itself. So that is what I mean when that's the being that I give the title God to. Yes. So when I say God, I mean title for supreme being. When you say, well, who holds the title God, I would say essential existence.
Okay, so I'm part of reality. Do you think I'm part of God?
You are an incident of reality. So yes. So you have realness, but you are not realness itself.
Wait. So, but I am part of reality because I do exist.
Yes, but you are not reality itself. You are an accident.
I am
of
not
reality.
reality itself, but I do exist, so I'm part of reality. You're saying
Yes.
God is reality.
That's why I said, like I said, so when people say the word reality, they usually mean a big container, like a ontological container, and everything that's real is inside the container. So that's usually what people mean by reality.
But so
let's
you
pretend
can't
for
just
a
say that I'm
moment-
just the incident of reality.
Well,
So
just to clarify for
because-
everybody, for a moment, let's pretend that reality is a container, right? You would say that container is ipsum esse, is God. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you would
so the
say
container
that
itself, the ground of being, which everything is resting upon, is God itself.
And both AAA and I and everything else is all found within that container.
You're resting on the ground of being. Yes, you are. It's like a table, and you're sitting on it. Yes.
And we, in a very real sense, make up a very, very, very tiny portion of said container.
Yeah. You are. Yeah.
So
you are a part of.
When AAA asked the question, "Is he a part of God?" the answer is yes.
Yeah. No.
Very tiny part.
So no, so you're and that's what the pantheist would say. So the
if you say I'm not part of reality, you're saying I don't exist. You're saying I'm not real.
I'm not saying you're not part of reality. I'm saying that you are an accident.
But that's exactly what Facade asked. If you're not saying I'm not a part of reality, then do you agree that I am part of reality?
Yes. So yeah.
Then if God is reality, then I am part of God.
So then I would say God is not reality. God is the foundation which reality rests upon.
Okay, so that makes no sense. Because reality, like God, if he exists, he is necessarily part of reality. You can't have a thing
otherwise,
and then reality be contingent on that thing. Because if that thing is real, then it's necessarily part of reality.
Yeah. So there's an excellent book. It's called Flatland: A Romance of Many Dimensions. It's free. It's in the public domain. It's 100 pages long. And it was one of the most fantastic books ever written. And it's about it's called Flatland because it's about shapes that live in a two-dimensional space.
And they can't perceive
and so they live in Flatland. And then there's a third dimension orthogonal to it. And so he meets a sphere, and the sphere tries to explain the third dimension, and it's very difficult for him to do. And he goes to Line Land where he meets the one-dimensional king, and he tries to explain the second dimension, and it's very difficult for him to do. So it's a wonderful book. It's very funny, has some good critiques of Victorian society, but it's an excellent example that I understand it. So when you say I exist, I have this existence, all I'm trying to say to you is that existence that you have is not floating unsupported as a brute fact.
Sure.
It is grounded. It is grounded in an orthogonal fundamental reality.
My existence. Okay, so my existence is grounded in something else, but not existence itself. Not reality itself. Because it sounded like earlier, correct me if I'm wrong, Facade, but didn't you hear him say that God is reality itself?
So God is reality.
But then when we started pushing you on that, you're saying, but then you started saying that God is separate from reality. So which one do you want to go with? Is God part of reality, or is he separate?
I would say it depends how we're going to use the word reality. So when we say
reality is that which is.
So if we say incidents of things that are, or the essence of isness itself, are two different things. So I have truth, I am not truth. I have existence, I am not existence. And
but
you're part of existence.
All that there is.
You're part of existence.
A lot of sense. And I think, but you've heard of like the difference between like the transcendental and the incidental. Yes, like the accident and the essential. That there are the.
But describing me as an incident of reality is problematic because it is so like I am part of reality if I exist.
You're part of the
like for instance, like my daughter, she is an incident of me, but she is not me.
Yes.
All right, but in order for you to not be a part of reality, you have to not exist. You have to not be real. And that is the criteria.
Yes.
So, all right. So, do you agree that I'm real?
Yes. You have realness, but you are not realness.
But I am part of that which is real.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
God is what realness is, I am part of God. Now,
yep. So I would say I would look at it. I would try and triangulate, and I would approach it from different vectors, because this vector, you're saying, hey, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't agree, and so I would just move on, and I would look at, say, well, maybe there's another angle that you would view it from, that you would, because like.
So let's address a few more comments, because it seems
table
that
it for
we're
now.
stuck.
Yeah.
We're
We'll
stuck.
come back to it.
We're stuck.
We got a lot. We have long lives.
Let's take a quick break. Let's go to some comments, because we have a couple more. First of all, whoever was the genius that came up with the name on YouTube for B.S. Lewis, I love you. That is hilarious.
B.S. Lewis.
B.S. Lewis.
That's
great. Kentucky Atheist asks, question, does reality require a foundation to rest on? And if so, why?
Yeah. So if you're going to have a worldview, you're going to want a worldview without any brute facts. If you have brute facts in your worldview, if you have then I would argue that that's just not a very compelling worldview, because it's going to start.
I thought you just agreed with me a few moments ago that reality exists out of necessity.
Yeah. So here's how I would say that.
So it wouldn't need to be grounded upon anything.
Well, it's grounded on itself. So, for example, some things are everything.
So you didn't agree with me then. I'm so confused here, because you were all right. Go ahead.
So here's what I would say. So everything has a cause, but some things are their own cause. So, for example, everything has a cause. The cause of everything is truth. So what's the cause of truth? And I would say itself, because there is no truth, can never be true. And so what's the cause of truth? It's self-causing. It's self-explanatory. That's one of those benefits.
Are we substituting truth for reality here?
Is that it's certain, at some level, you can actually be.
Are you substituting truth and reality here again?
Requiring explanation.
Yes, no. Hey, are you substituting truth and truth and reality again?
So we could do it with reality. It can't be real that nothing is real, because then the reality that nothing is real would be real.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, because you kind of keep going back and forth on this, and this is
right. Because I think the question was, does reality
is transcendental truth?
So
all
the question was
themselves.
I think the question was, does reality need a foundation? Does it need something deep? And you said
yes.
It's
floating.
So because you said the worldview can't have brute facts. Like what caused God?
I would say a brute fact is a fact that's not explained by anything, and everything has an explanation, because the explanation explanation is itself an explanation.
Does God have an explanation?
Yes, God is his own explanation. He is self-explanatory.
Sorry, so here's the problem. So like I see no contradiction at all in God not existing. A reality where there's no God, no problem. No reality, that is problematic. You're saying that there's no state of affairs. That can't be the case.
Yeah, exactly.
There cannot not be a state of affairs. Whatever it is, that would be. So it would result in a contradiction. So unless you want to throw out the logical absolutes, reality must exist.
Yeah. That
is not the case for God.
Well, no, I would say God is a title held by reality. And I know that
I thought you were saying. I thought you were saying that.
Pause real quick, please.
It's God's reality.
I just want to ask a question just to clarify, if I can. Are we now substituting God for reality? Like in lieu of the word reality, you're using the word God.
No, okay. Again, I'm going to say it again, because I understand that not everybody thinks this way. So I will say the way I think about it. God is a title. There's a criteria to hold that title. The title criteria is being supreme, or supreme being. So if you are being supreme being, then the title God is held by you. Congrats, you win. And so
okay, but hold on. When you say being there, you mean existence, right?
Reality is God.
And when you say being there, you mean existence, right?
When I say being, I mean actuality. Yes.
Okay, and actuality
is actuality.
By all accounts, reality is actuality.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and then let's continue down that same, keep on chugging. By that same token, the most supreme of all actuality is therefore reality, because it is all that there is. Therefore, reality would hold the title of the supreme being.
The source of the incidents are supreme. Yes.
Therefore, reality itself would hold the title of supreme being, because it would be the thing that is most existing. Therefore, reality would hold the title God.
Yes. The only problem you're making is you're thinking that the collection of incidents is the source of the collection.
No, that's not what we're saying. So,
but let's say even at where you're at, you should then be a pantheist. But the reason I'm not a pantheist is because I make this distinction, and I say that the incidental reality collection is not reality-ness itself. So accidental existence is not essential existence. So I am real, but I am not realness. I'm part of reality, but the collection of things that have been made real are not reality.
Okay, so now we kind of run into a problem, because it sounds like you're violating identity here, right? Because you're saying God is reality. He makes things.
It's some essay, yes.
Yeah. So I exist. I'm real. So I'm part of reality.
You are an incident.
But somehow I don't have the same properties of God.
Yes.
But we're the same thing. So I equal reality. God equals reality. But me and God doesn't equal the same thing. So A equals B, B equals C, but A does not equal C.
Yes, because you're not making
that violates identity.
I have beauty. I am not beauty itself. I have goodness. I am not goodness itself. I have humanness. I am not humanness itself.
Okay. All right. Okay? So now you're saying
properties. I have these accidental properties. I am not the essential propertyness of those essences.
Okay, so you said God is reality, is what you're saying.
He is the essence of reality.
So reality does not have its own foundation. To answer the question
the collection
because reality is God.
Accidental things that exist has the foundation of the essence of existence itself. Yes. And I understand. So this is for people wondering, like, is this like, am I the only person that thinks this on the planet? I promise you, I'm not. This is not my idiosyncratic view. This is the view of classical theism.
I don't care about that.
If you Google Ipsum essay, it's a great entry point into the Catholic scholastic view on this kind of idea. But yeah,
honestly, to me, it really sounds like a generic Spinoza's God.
Mm-hmm.
Generically, to me, it sounds like Spinoza's God.
Then if Spinoza,
are you familiar with Spinoza's God?
From what I know about him,
well, Spinoza is really just calling like the laws of reality.
Yeah. So he would be like a pantheist.
Yeah. So, are you a pantheist?
Which to me is more rational than atheism.
Are you a pantheist?
Inflammatory, but.
Are you a pantheist?
No, I'm a theist. I believe that the the incidents, the collection is resting on the essence. There's the accidents of existence, which is us. We accidentally exist. Our accidental existence has a source, and that source is the essence of existence.
So here's the thing. So when we talk about like God, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I was saying earlier was that there's no necessity for God to exist, because his non-existence wouldn't result in a contradiction. For reality, it would. But you get around that by calling God reality.
I give the title God.
And so you're saying
reality. Yes. But when you say reality, you mean the collection of all incidents. When I say reality,
just whatever it is. Like there couldn't be nothing. Yes, it couldn't not be a reality, because reality is just a state of affairs, and it couldn't be a state of affairs. But there are things that are part of the state of affairs that aren't necessarily. There's no reason for me to exist. Like a galaxy doesn't have to exist. Earth doesn't have to exist. Yes.
Yeah.
but there has to be a state of affairs, whatever there is.
Yes. I agree.
Okay.
You're 100% on board. So
All right, and
everything's contingent except for the necessary kernel of realness itself. Yes.
Yes. And now,
I'm
and so
on board.
now here's probably where we're going to disagree, because
Yeah.
I'm going to say there's no necessity for God to exist. Just reality.
Yeah. So when you say the word God, you're using it not using, but you don't. When you say God, you don't mean I have a criteria to hold the title God,
Well,
to be supreme being.
What?
Reality.
No. So I'm
That's
using.
not you. You use it in a different sense, which is totally.
I'm
fine.
using. I'm using in a. Well, you had told me you were Catholic, and so I was using in the sense that
the Catholic
my understanding of what Catholics believe about God. They don't. For the most, I mean, I never met one that would say that reality is God.
They would.
I get
Ipsum esse exists. There's a Latin phrase for it. Is what the Catholic idea of God the Father is. Now.
Okay, sure.
Now,
Yeah, I wasn't discounting you because.
And then you get into like the things that you. So there's things we can know about God a priori. So like, in many times we even will display like Aristotle. He's been depicted in art.
I want to pause you real quick before you get really far down that rabbit trail. You just said there.
It's a fun little factoid. So Aristotle,
that's fine, but you are making a contradictory statement right now. You're making a contradictory statement.
What's the contradictory statement?
Before you said there are no brute facts. Now you're saying there are things you can know a priori.
Yeah, but they're not brute facts.
Then you cannot know them a priori. That is how this works.
No, so okay, well let's make sure we're using. Okay, when I say the word brute fact, all I mean is brute facts are facts that are not explained by anything. So if by brute fact you mean an a priori truth, then I don't mean a brute fact in that sense. So
you're
mathematical
you're just like really nuanced in how you're going to use all of your words.
Any other thoughts or comments or any other questions?
I had a question.
Are all things contingent on this God that you propose? That's a comment a question in the comments. Are all things contingent on this God you propose?
Yes. So everything that has accidental existence is contingent on necessary existence, because without necessary existence you can't exist. And
so reality itself is not contingent upon God, though.
Well, God's a title for supreme being, which is held by essential existence.
By something that exists.
No, it's held by existence itself. Ipsum esse.
So if there's no existence, there can't be a God.
Therefore,
the title
God
wouldn't
is
be
reality.
held if there was nothing to hold the title.
Right. So,
but there has to be
that's what I'm saying. So there's
so
existence is the founder as the most rudimentary thing, right?
Yeah, that's why it holds the title God.
No. We're saying without a reality, there couldn't be a God. But we're right.
Well, no, because we're still using, when you use the word God, you're using it not as a title for supreme being.
Let's use it in the way you want to use it.
I mean supreme being. If nothing existed, there couldn't be a supreme being.
But
if there were no beings,
nothing or something always.
If there were no beings, there would be no supreme being.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will make God contingent on reality.
No, because reality is always going to hold the title God, because reality will.
No, but what I'm saying is, if there was no reality.
But there can't be. But yes,
I know. I agree. There can't be a reality. But, what I'm saying is that is the essential thing, not the God, not the superlative of the sets, but reality itself. Yes. Not the superlative of reality, but reality. So that will make God contingent on reality.
Yeah. So I feel like we're still not using the term the same way, but that's okay. So I would say we agree that there's a foundation of essential reality itself. And I choose to call it God, and you choose not to use that term.
I thought you were
but we could sound like earlier. There, we could move from there.
It sounded like earlier you were calling the superlative of reality, like of all the sets, the thing that is most supreme, that's the God.
So if a member.
So what I'm saying is, if there was no set, as in there was no reality, there was no existence, there would be no.
Well, there's
God.
always the set of the essential existence, which will always be itself populated.
Yes, and if that thing did not exist, there wouldn't be a superlative of the set.
Yeah, if nothing exists,
So
then
that would make God contingent. God is contingent on the set. In the same way,
the title is always held by necessary being. And I don't know. We're probably getting in circles, but if we agree that there's necessary being, I think the best way to move forward would to say, well, what could we learn from the fact that there's this necessary foundation of reality?
What I'm saying is,
well, that necessary reality is the cause of all beauty, so that's a good thing.
No. What I'm saying is the superlative of the set is based on the existence of the set itself.
Yes.
There could not be a superlative of a set if there was no set.
Yes.
You're saying the superlative of the set is God.
Yes.
Okay, but not the set itself. Because the set itself includes the set includes things like me. I exist.
It doesn't have to.
I'm part of it, but it doesn't have to, but I am part of the set. There are
other
things.
Now that
yes,
you exist.
Yes, there are. What I'm saying is you agree.
Okay, so exist.
So what I'm saying is you agree that there are things part of the set that aren't God.
Yes.
Okay. So if there was so we agree with that. There are things that's part of the set that's not God.
Yeah.
That being said, if there was no set at all, then there wouldn't be a superlative.
Yes, but there is always a set because the set's always has to be there because
that will mean yes. Now that set exists out of necessity.
Yes,
the superlative
holds the title.
Yes, but that superlative is contingent.
No, it is the set itself is the superlative. Like, so what's
I'm part of the set.
The bluest thing is blueness itself. You know, the most beautiful thing is beauty itself. And so if you say, I put a bunch of blue things in the bucket, what's the bluest thing? The bluest thing is blueness itself. So there's a bunch of creatures in the pot of creation. What's the supreme being is the source of the pot itself. So, and so I know that you don't find that fulfilling. Maybe someday down the road, something in your mind will change on that. That's okay.
I'm fine with that. But then when I push you on that and ask you, does that mean that you're defining your reality as God? You say no.
No, I don't. But I say yes. The essence of realness is God. Yes, it holds the title.
I'm not saying an incident of reality. I'm talking about reality itself, therefore, is God.
Yes. Ipsum esse. Existence itself is God.
And a few minutes ago, I thought you were just saying the exact opposite.
Existence.
Because you guys, when you say reality, you mean something else. When I say reality, I can make a distinction between the two uses of the word.
Okay, I'm being very specific here.
That's God. If you say incidental realities, not God.
I'm being very specific here. When I say reality, I'm referring to all of existence. I'm not talking about the collection of things. I'm not talking about
the pantheists would say is God, but I would say is not.
Hold up. I'm not talking about the collection of things.
Yeah.
I'm talking about all of existence itself.
The essence of existence?
Define essence of existence.
As opposed to the accident of existence. So the essence of existence is
you mean incident?
Necessary. Okay, so there are accidental properties and there are essential properties. So accidental properties are those that may obtain. Essential properties are that which must obtain. So there's accidental existence, my existence, that doesn't have to happen, but it has. And then there's essential existence, which is the essence of existence.
And how would you determine that your existence was an accident?
Because it doesn't have to obtain. Because I didn't used to exist.
How do you know that?
Because I didn't used to exist, and now I do.
Okay. Did reality ever not exist?
No, because it necessarily exists.
And you believe cause and effect is a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you believe
everything has a cause.
You believe you were caused to exist, right?
Yes.
Were you ever not caused to exist?
Yeah, until I was caused to exist, I didn't exist. And so I wasn't caused to exist until I existed.
So you think that yours is not only contingent upon reality itself, but causation.
Yeah. If
Do you think reality itself,
they don't exist?
do you think reality itself is contingent upon causation?
No, because reality is self-causing because it has to exist, so it causes itself to exist.
So, like, Bryce, the problem I have is that every time we start going into things, you give the exact same properties to reality or truth or God to each other, right? And then when I ask you, are these things the same? You say, no, they're not.
Well, they're different words, so they come to mean in relation to each other in different ways. So if I say ipsum esse, that's a Latin phrase for the essence of existence itself.
Yes,
If I say
we've
God,
heard the
that's
phrase
the title
before.
for supreme being that I give to ipsum esse. If I say transcendental reality, that's the same thing as saying transcendental existence.
Hold on. Let me ask you something. Can I say the red running?
The red running? You can
Yeah.
say it? Yes, you just did.
Right. But would you say that the descriptor red is a way I could describe the word running?
Yeah, you could have meaning that's that. So, like, for example, you could have a semantic meaning where you tie colors to running styles. Sure, like when we say
But
a red letter day,
it couldn't be
that
red
means
itself.
that it's a special day because it calls back to how we printed red letters for important days, or how Jesus's words were printed in red, something like that. So red running could have meaning. There could be some Amazonian tribe that's a meaningful statement. Now, for me, it doesn't really bring anything to mind.
Right, because it's based on how we use words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I asked you about things earlier, we were talking about superlatives, but you said you give the title God to the superlative of existence.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Just verifying that is how you defined God.
Yes.
It is the title for the superlative of existence.
Yes. And nothing is more existence than existence itself, ipsum esse.
Well, hold up. That's an incorrect statement given that it is the essence of existence.
Yeah.
Not existence itself.
Yeah,
so it is a subset. It is a subset of existence itself. It is the essence of it. So is God the title?
It feels like you're trying to be obtuse,
no. I'm not trying to be obtuse. I'm genuinely not. I'm asking, is a better way to define the way you perceive God the superlative of the essence of existence?
Let's see. The superlative of existence, is that the best way to describe it?
No, because I think that's what you said you do now. And you confirmed that earlier. You said it's the superlative of existence. But you keep using the Latin phrase ipsum esse, which means the essence of existence.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And essence is a subset of existence. It's not existence itself.
Well, then, if you're going to interpret it that way, then I would just rephrase it. I would say, no, then we'll just say existence itself.
Okay, but existence itself, we would agree, is reality.
No.
But then you refuse the title of God and reality being used interchangeably.
When I say reality, I mean the realness.
This is why I'm trying to come up with a mutual definition with you, buddy, so we don't have to go in circles like this. So when I ask you, is it the essence, is a subset?
To have a mutual understanding, we could, because the thing is, I feel like you're not looking to agree on what we agree with. So, for example, let's say we agreed there's an ultimate floor to reality that's the final cause of everything. So even if you
reality itself is the floor
to call that God, you would have to admit that floor of reality is your creator.
I would say reality itself is the floor.
And so an openness to that, to say, hey, that is the cause of beauty, that is the cause of truth, that is the cause of goodness.
Reality itself is the floor.
You would have to show a lot of
gratitude.
Are you saying
like God is the cause of truth?
Yes. Yeah, all contingent
Okay.
truth, because God is
Right.
necessary
So
truth.
it
Yeah.
seemed like it seems to me God would suffer from the same problems, like as other things. Like God can't be unless it is true that God
Because
is.
God is truth itself. Yeah.
So would that make God contingent on truth?
No, God is a title held by truth.
And it's held by reality, and it's held by actuality, and it's held by other things, because you've said all of them throughout the duration of this podcast.
Yeah, and if you wanted to actually know, then you would, instead of trying to have a hermeneutic of not understanding, you could say, I'm going to suspend belief. I'm going to put myself in that mind space. I'm going to see where it goes.
That's not what's going on.
Because I can't force you.
We're not trying to misunderstand. We're not trying to misunderstand. Like there are contradictions in the way you're describing things. It's not just us. People in the comments are saying
you are consistently violating the law of identity.
Understand this distinction between I am real and I am realness itself. I feel like I'm saying
perfectly
this,
acceptable of that
to me, and then you say, and you're like, well, aren't I reality? Like, no
one said that. No one said that. It's like, so we're talking about earlier. I said I would be a part of reality because I exist.
You're part of the sense.
I didn't say I was reality itself. Of course I'm not, but I will be part of reality. And the problem is, if you describe God as reality itself, and I am part of reality itself. But no. The problem is, if you describe God as as reality itself, and I am part of reality, now I am now part of God.
You are part of the effect of God. Yes. So you are.
But I will no. You have to. Now we're violating identity.
No,
right?
Because again, you are.
You're saying there's reality.
This is the conclusion I came to 10 minutes ago, dude.
Think of a way to make this distinction. Are you beauty, or do you have beauty? And now I know you guys don't believe in objective beauty, so
hold up. That's fine. So, it's fine. I get you, buddy. Is God reality, or is God just a part of reality?
Yeah, God is reality. He is the essence of realness.
And if I am part of reality, I am part of God.
Okay, you're using the word collection. So let's take reality off the table.
You just said God is.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay, because look. Okay. We're gonna make a new word now. We're gonna call, anytime you want to refer to the collection of everything that exists, we're gonna call that the collective reality. Okay, or incidental reality, incidence of realness. Call it that. And then when I say transcendental reality or the essence of reality, then we're going to be at a point where we're using it in two distinct ways. Because you'll say the word reality, and you're vacillating wildly between these two different.
Okay, pause.
Thoughts.
Pause for a second. Let's not use. You said let's not use the word reality, so let's actually not use the word reality. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to use the word blue in substitution for reality.
Okay. Blue. Okay.
Blue, like the color. We're going to use that throughout for just a moment. You would say God is blueness.
Yes.
And I am colored blue.
But you are not blueness.
I am not saying I am blueness. I am not claiming to be blueness.
Yeah.
I have the quality of blueness.
Yes.
Therefore, I have a property of blueness.
Yes.
I am a part of blueness.
Very qualified sense. If
I'm not asking you to. I'm not asking. Is it a really?
You are not God, but you have a effect of God, like of divinity in you.
I have a property of God Himself.
His own image. That's true because we're rational thinking animals, and God is rationality.
I have a property of God Himself.
Yeah, He made you in His image. So yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
So why did we have to just eradicate the word reality for you to understand this?
Because I feel like
because we've been arguing this for 20. No, because you're misappropriating the word, and then you're accusing us of not understanding it. We understand what reality is, and we have consistently used it. You keep inconsistently using reality, and then you appropriate things to it, such as truth, actuality, and God, and then we say you're violating the law of identity because you're using them synonymously, and then you say that's not what's happening.
Each other, things are convertible. So, for example,
is God reality?
And existing are essentially the same word.
Is God reality?
Yes, but reality and God isn't. And so
God's the title for reality.
But that's the problem we were having. And so it took us a long time to decide whether God is a superlative of reality or reality itself. Go back and listen to the show. We were switching back and forth.
I'm sorry.
You go there, and so me and Fasad chase you there.
So your guys' stock in my book is just ticking up right now. See, it's like you build that. So I would say that if, let's say, we even table the use of the title God, we agree that there is this ground of being from which everything flows, from which everything that happens. Wouldn't that be worthy of infinite gratitude? Like, I don't know, like, why not?
I mean,
like the source of all beauty, the source of all goodness, seems like something that we should be.
I mean,
I would say the source of all beauty, source of all goodness would just be reality. If something, if it's real,
it's also the source of all discomfort and ugliness and hatred and everything opposite to it,
and sin and
toughness. Yeah, it's true.
So I would say it seems to me it kind of balances each other out, right? Like you would say, if there's a true beauty, there's a true ugly. If there's a true sin, then there's a true good, or whatever you want to call it, opposite of sin.
But so the thing is, though, is that all the good stuff comes from necessary reality, and all the defects and all the shortcomings can
only exist if the necessary exists. Which means that they're also necessary.
Without the contingent, so like my ugliness wouldn't exist unless I existed. So by creating me, God created the ugly things that I would do, which is unfortunate that I am that way. But in his infinite love, sent his only begotten son to die for us. And so we get redemption there. So
but change course a little bit. Unless Fasad.
We can look at some different things.
Fasad, did you want to say something else about this?
I got nothing, man.
So yeah, there was another comment I was curious about. He said, I unless you know for sure God doesn't exist, your atheism is just blind faith.
Yeah, just blind faith. That's one thing that I think.
So do you think my atheism is blind faith?
So I think that there's something that atheists and theists talk past each other a little bit on. So when a theist says the word faith, I think the most traditional understanding of the word is just trust. So like that's why we have,
sure, but in this context,
fidelity is trust, high fidelity.
Sure, but in this context, that's not what they mean.
So what I would say is if you don't know that there's no supreme being, you're just trusting that there isn't one. And what is that trust based on? That's going to be something you'd have to look inside your mind.
The available evidence. So I would say that trust would exist even in the face of knowledge, right? So like I'm having a conversation with you, so I know you exist, right? Mm-hmm. Like colloquially speaking, don't get into the solipsism and all that kind of stuff, but like I know you exist. I also trust that you exist because I'm trusting my senses.
Yes, and trusting your senses is sensible. And trusting logic is logical, and trusting reason is reasonable.
So sometimes.
All right. So what I'm saying is, like, is everybody's atheism a result of faith?
So everybody's atheism is they are trusting something And if they say
well, they're trusting. So like in my existence, like in my case, like your God specifically.
yeah.
I know he does not exist because he has properties that violate reason.
Which
by yours, we're talking not
really?
about the title upon which
So-
you've conferred God, but the Catholic God himself, which you claim to be a member of the faith.
Can we go there? So you said like the hypostatic union. Can you tell me how that doesn't violate reason?
So when we say God is fully God and fully man, and you're saying, well, there has to be,
is God a man?
If I define God as not man and I define man as not God,
man is.
I would say that those definitions we could just swap out, because I don't feel like that those are the definitions you have to use for man. Like I think man is defined as a rational animal or something, like, you know. Or what's the man is a featherless biped and he pulls the feathers off a chicken. Behold, I give you a man. Yeah, I don't know. I think man is a rational animal. So I think God entering creation and becoming a rational animal, I don't think that is necessarily self-contradictory. It's definitely mysterious.
Oh, okay.
The creator entering
man
creation is crazy. But
I was trying to look up a specific definition of what a man is. Like I don't have one, but we can talk about the properties of man. Man is a type of mammal that's a vertebrate with a specific evolutionary history. That's not a god. We agree?
But I don't see any reason that God could not become man. So why, I don't know why God could not enter.
Well,
God
even
could
by your
morph. Hold on. Let's hold on. God couldn't morph into a man, and he would no longer be a god. If you want to do that, sure. Like I have no problem with that. But like just like this deodorant, this could morph into a magazine. That's possible, but it can't be. This deodorant can't be deodorant and then not be deodorant
at the same time.
Yes, because this magazine is defined as a type of non-deodorant. This is the problem.
So that's going to be where you're saying, well, wouldn't that? So, for example, with classical theism, we believe God is immutable; He does not change. And then, how is the incarnation not a change? I think the way they answer it is it's about that God's essence never changes, and
I don't really care about the change factor here, buddy. I'm talking about like, and I don't think he does either. I could be wrong, but we're just talking about like the aspect itself is that if you just Google the word man, one definition, right? According to Google, is an individual human. And now I would not define an individual.
God couldn't be a human. So
okay, but if God is defined as an individual human, then there are about 8 billion gods on the planet now.
Because the changing the definition of God isn't to supreme being that is a human, but he could be a human. So it's not an accidental property, or it's not an essential property.
Okay, all right. So when we talk about human, right? So I just Googled Homo sapien, right? The species of bipedal primates to which modern humans belong, characterized by a large brain, nearly vertical forehead, skeletal build, lighter and smaller teeth, right? Okay.
Not a poetically rational animal, but okay.
Sure. Okay. Either way. All right. So when we talk about man is a male Homo sapien, right? That's a specific thing that came about 3 or 4 million years ago that did not exist prior. That is a non-god, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
God, so
okay. No. Let's
that.
Okay. So what we just described as the man, that is a non-god. All right. So to say that Jesus is 100% man and 100% God, you're saying he's 100% God and 100% non-God.
Again,
that violates identity.
You're defining man in a way that you're saying
you agreed with the way I defined man. You just agreed
But
with the
your
way I defined
definition
it.
wasn't. If the definition of God is not, or sorry, if the definition of man was not God, then I would just disagree
That's
with
not
that
how I. That's
definition.
not how I defined it. Remember the
Then,
bipedal
then I don't
primate.
see the contradiction. So,
Okay,
and I
okay.
understand
The
you do
thing that
see
I
the
just said, it's a
contradiction, but
bipedal
I
primate.
don't. So,
Put no, Bryce.
Mhm.
The definition that you agreed to, like 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
All right.
Is either a
The
rational
bipedal
animal
primate.
or a bipedal Homo sapien that evolved out of Africa from whatever. I'm
Yes,
with you.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a non-God, right?
No, there's nothing about
okay.
that.
So you think
So the
so you
title
think
literally where
these
I was just
primates
at.
that evolved out of East Africa, out of Ethiopia somewhere, that's God.
No. So I'm just
So it's a
saying that they're not
non-God.
incompatible. So for
No,
example,
it's,
so
no,
the
so it's not about it being.
the president
It's not
right
about being.
now is
Look,
left-handed.
Bryce. No. I don't think you understand the problem.
Okay.
It's not about it being compatible. You could be
Mm-hmm.
50% of both, and
No,
that's
you
just
could
being
be
compatible.
100% of both. You
You
could be
can't.
100%.
Not if they're not, bro. Bryce.
Mhm.
Bryce. Look, you could be 100% dog and 100% German Shepherd because
Mhm.
a German Shepherd is a type of dog.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no contradiction in the way we're identifying things. A German
Yeah,
Shepherd is a dog. Okay, but here's the thing. But Bryce, here's the thing. Human is not a subset of God.
Well, a human is
human
an
is a
animal that
specific.
evolved.
It's a specific type of human that
And I
has
just
these
don't see
properties
how-
that I outlined that
And I
came
just
out
don't
of
see
East
how
Africa.
it's incompatible that God could become a human.
It can't.
because
So that's not what we're
he-
saying. So
Yeah.
so a dog could could logically turn into a non-dog. I'm not saying that's biologically possible, but it wouldn't violate logic for a dog to turn into a keyboard, right? But what it could not be is a dog and a non-dog at the same time, and that's what you're saying about Jesus.
No, I'm just you're
the definition
of man where
you
somehow
agree
at some point. Well, I never agreed to the man is defined as a non-god. I never got that's.
I gave you that definition, and I said that's not a god, right?
And I agree.
You said yes.
Oh, well, so human.
Let's try this a different.
Is God a bipedal primate that evolved out of Ethiopia?
Let's try this a different. Let's try it a different way. Can you give the title Supreme Being to a human?
Yeah, because Jesus is Supreme Being and he is a human. So yeah.
Okay, so Jesus.
Now, but like, could you give it to any human? No. Could I just go to find Donald Trump and be like, "You're the best, man"? Like, no, that wouldn't work. No.
Great. So
could
now
God
we have
become man? Yes.
Great. So Jesus holds the title, or a human can hold the title of Supreme Being.
Yes.
Therefore, a human can hold the title of ipsum esse, which is reality itself.
Yeah, if you read the first the first chapter of the Gospel of John, there's a beautiful introduction about in the beginning the Word was, the Word was with God, the Word was God, and nothing was created without the Word.
Bryce, wasn't there a point at which there were no humans?
Yeah, but there was,
and things still existed.
There was
and there were
the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
But hold up though. But there were, before humans existed, things existed.
Yes.
Therefore, reality could not be contingent on humanity.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that God's or the humanity of Jesus Christ is the beginning. It's the meridian of time, not the beginning of time. But I don't worry too much about this kind of stuff, because this is where you two are orphans who don't think you have parents, and I'm trying to convince you that this individual man is your dad, and you're like, well, he can't be my dad because I don't have a dad. It's well, don't worry. First you would start step one, and I know you're going to say, well, that's not a fair comparison. I understand.
I would just say it's a really poor comparison, given that
to the idea
I would say it would take more than just a man to have me.
And so, for example, when C.S. Lewis converted from atheism, he started with a deism, and then he kind of was open to the idea of Christianity. So if you're going from atheism straight to Christianity, I think it's very difficult. And so I would encourage you to spend time with deism, spend time
I don't even have
with,
a problem with that. It doesn't matter. Like, it sounds rude. I just don't care. I'm asking about the properties of something that is contradictory.
You're saying that it's contradictory, but for 1.2 billion people,
I'm saying based off of the definition of humanity, that reality existed before humanity existed. Therefore, it cannot be contingent upon it.
It's not semantical. This isn't semantical.
This is not semantics.
It's entirely semantic. You're saying the definition of A and the definition of B are incompatible. Therefore, something cannot be AB. Which
what we're saying. So Bryce, what we're saying is something cannot be A and not A. And when I gave the definition of man that you agreed to, excluding God. I did not agree that the definition of man is not God. I agree that the definition of man is something that could be God.
But you agree that humanity, no matter how you define man, that humanity, which would contain men, did not exist prior to about 4 million years ago. Therefore, they could not be equal to reality, which is how you give the definition of God. Therefore, they cannot hold the same. Hold up, let me finish the thought. Therefore, the humanity, man, and God, the superlative of essence of reality, cannot both hold the same title, because one didn't exist about 4 million years ago, and therefore has to be contingent upon things that did exist 4 million years ago.
Yeah, so God.
So they cannot exist in the same place at the same time.
Address this point, please. Address that point.
They cannot exist at the same place in the same time with the same title. Therefore, A is equal to not A.
I understand that that's what you think you're saying, and
can you please address it or explain where it's wrong?
I'm not too worried about changing your mind on that one right now.
Can you explain where it's wrong?
Okay. I tried twice and I got interrupted, so I'm going to try a third time. I'm going to walk into this conversation now and see if I can say something. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't mean to be sassy like that. I'm sorry. We'll probably wrap it up here in a little bit, but so
we're in like 5 minutes. I got to get ready to go anyway.
Yeah. So God exists from all eternity, and we know through revelation that God is not just this singular ground of being. That by the gift of revelation, we know that He actually is 3 persons, lover, beloved, and the love between them, of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. And so the second person of the Trinity exists from all eternity, doesn't begin to exist. That's what the Arians believed. It wasn't created at the incarnation when the Blessed Mother conceived Jesus.
So
I'm just saying.
We're not talking about the second person of the Trinity. There was a point at which. But Bryce, there was a point at which the second person of the Trinity became a man.
Yes, became
human.
Yes.
Okay, now that's the problem, because before then,
I understand.
Prior to the Immaculate Conception, the second person of the Trinity was just the God. Was not a. He was a non-man.
The only begotten of the Son. Yes.
Sure.
So,
he was a non-man.
Loving the Son,
and now
between them is the Holy Spirit.
Yes, and now at some point in 4 BC, he becomes both a God and a non-God.
Yes. He becomes God and man, yes. But man isn't defined as not God. Man is defined as
I said man is defined as a type of non-God. Of course, if we look at the definition of man, it wouldn't just be non-God. But when we look at the definition, it is a type of a non-God. Just like this deodorant, this is a type of non-basketball.
Yeah.
That's not what it is.
Also, it goes against your definition of what God is, because you said it's the supreme being that exists prior to humanity, and all of reality is contingent upon. Yes. Therefore, a human could not fit that criteria, because we just talked about how reality could not be contingent upon humanity. So you cannot be perfectly both a God, aka a title upon which all reality is contingent, and human, a title which does not gain the property of supreme being, in which all things are contingent at the same time. You're literally saying it is a God that which is all things are contingent and non-God, a thing which not all things are contingent at the same time.
Yeah, so fully man and fully God. And if you say, well, man is not God, oh, well, okay. you're saying that it's impossible, but I mean, I don't know. That wasn't really something, because once you say like, oh, well, it was all impossible, then you have to get into the like some conspiracy theory to explain all of history, and I find that when you
just
compare
become a
that,
Muslim.
You don't. You could just say like they just
become a Muslim.
Never considered it.
they just made it up. Yeah, but then how did Jesus rise from the grave? And you say, oh,
you have to prove all of that.
Yeah, just become a Muslim.
You weigh it all out.
Just become a Muslim.
The historical theory is more persuasive than the conspiracy.
The laws of logic.
Just become a Muslim. You eradicate this problem
about God becoming man. You're saying
no, but that's not what we're saying. No. So God could become man, but he's no longer a God. He would have to be a non-God, or he could be 50% of both. That makes no sense.
No, you could be 100%.
You're violating identity.
100% father. Like I just don't see that
because a father could be a type of man.
Yeah, and God could be a human.
No, it would exclude that.
I mean, your definition of God excludes that.
I understand that you view differently.
Just like a bachelor could not be a type of husband.
A bachelor could not be a type of husband. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so you could not have a married. Okay, so you could not have a married bachelor. I agree.
Right. And you could not have a supreme being.
Man and God are mutually exclusive.
Yes, the properties that you give God cannot fit the properties that we give man.
That's what you think, but I would say
that's not what we think.
That's what you said. You have defined it this way. Go back and look at your definition of God. You defined it as the supreme being, the essence itself of reality, which all things are contingent. You cannot give man the same. You cannot give man those same properties.
Hey.
So I understand.
Last word of the show, Bryce.
Unpersuaded. That's okay.
Last word of the show, Bryce.
Not every question could be solved in a single day.
Last word of the show, Bryce. Yep, go ahead.
Last words. All I would say is, when it comes to if you look at posteriori evidence for different religions and find them unpersuasive, it's most likely because of the a priori first principles you're beginning from. So I would invite everybody, if you agree there is a ground of being, because a lot of people don't even like. I want to give full points for this, because there's a lot of people who really push against even that, where they say there is no ground of being, there's no first cause, there's either a random collection of brute facts, or there's an infinite regress. There's a lot of ways people really try to dance around the idea of a floor being or a floor level reality. So the fact that you believe that and you accept that, I think is very cool, and I would encourage you to meditate on that and to think about that there is this base level of reality that from which everything springs, and maybe sit with that a little bit. Think that isn't that crazy that that I'm communing with this reality by all the things that I do that I make real. So like if you were to punch your wife or something terrible, you'd say, I would make that real, that she was punched. That would be a realness that I created from the gift of existing. And you think, oh, that's awful. And obviously, moral intuitions you have, but I would invite you to just think about that, sit with it, and over time, it might stir within you a deeper thought. And I know that the posteriori evidence for God, like when you say, okay, well, now let's crack open the history book, that maybe that's different, but look at the a priori.
Hey, all right. I was gonna say, if you would have had more that you had to say, I was gonna say I have to dip. Okay.
Thank you for the chat. It was great.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for all the chats.
Have you back on
comments.
Bryce,
thanks for coming on.
I love talking to you guys.
Thanks for coming on, Bryce. Thanks for all the chats. Thanks for all the comments, guys. We appreciate it.
Anything else?
We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Well, we'll hit you up soon to come back on my guy. All right, be good, my man.
Anything